Welcome back. A flurry of announcements from the government in the last week or so on new measures to help injured veterans. They come, as you know, after the government took some harsh criticism for its treatment of men and women who served Canada in uniform. You'll recall that the previous Veterans Affairs Minister, Julie Infantino, was shuffled out of the job after a series of nasty brushes with veterans and their loved ones. Take a look at how this scene played out on Parliament Hill last May.
Mr. Fantino, as a spouse, can I talk to you, please?
Right.
Mr. Fantino, I'm just a vet spouse. You're forgetting us. Once more. We're nothing to you. Willing to train people at the Legion? But we're just what? Nothing? Nothing. This is what we are. Nothing. Again.
That was Jenny Mignot venting her frustration over the government's failure to help her husband. It was a pretty unbelievable and incredible moment on Parliament Hill of a real person talking to a politician about something that wasn't working. Before the break, we heard from the new Minister of Veterans Affairs, Erin O'Toole. He was announcing a new benefit to help people like Jennifer Mignot, veterans caregivers. But is it enough to adequately support injured vets and their families, or is it a bid to rebuild relations during an election year? Joining me now from Montreal is Jenny Mignot. You may, of course, recognize her. She's been on the show many times talking about her fight for the rights of family members and caretakers of veterans. Good to see you again, Madame Mignot. Appreciate you being here. Do you think that today is a significant step forward for people who are in the same position as you, taking care of their spouses and taking care of veterans and their families?
I think it's significant in the matter of the symbolism, in the matter of recognition that we are there. I believe this is really the first time where I feel like we are suddenly somebody in the system, in the healing process of our wounded. In the content, I don't know. I have many doubts.
So what the benefit seems to suggest is, yes, this benefit for caregivers, for family caregivers. The government is saying it's expected to affect about 350 veterans caregivers by 2020. Do you think that you will fall under that category?
I don't know because I'll be honest with you. I'm so used of being told that services and benefits are there, present, available, and yet when I look at my husband, or even for myself, the accessibility is complex. Who's entitled to receive those benefits? It's always unclear, and let's be real, delay, deny, and die is a reality already. So I'm just hopeful that we won't fall into that category, and the services will be available to as many people as possible, 350 till 2020.
Yeah.
That's 5 years.
Yeah. It's also $7,000. So I guess it's not a tax credit, it's an out-and-out grant, but the $7,000 is meant to offer respite for people like yourself who need a break. Is that, you think, the best offer that would be the most valuable for people caring for veterans?
When you think about respite for me, okay, so does it mean that I get to leave my husband alone at home? Does it mean that my husband has the money to pay somebody else to stay at home with him? Maybe this measure will help others, but I can tell you, for me, there's no question of a stranger in my house. My husband is suffering from PTSD. He has trust issues. And there's no way that he will even accept the idea that a stranger will come into my house, cook dinner for him, and so on. He won't. I won't benefit from that measure. I can tell you this already. In fact, talking about this measure, the way it's presented, it would have been perfect if I would have been working. And it would have been a compensation for me when I have to miss work in order to accompany my husband. Yes. In order for me to stay with him when he needs me, when he has nightmares and terrible nights. Yes. But presented like this, I mean, I don't know. I'm not reassured. The will is there. And I salute this. Okay? And I want to put a lot of emphasis on this. It's important in terms of recognition. It's a political gain, yes, but is it adapted for me? I don't see how.
You had talked about when this all unfolded during your confrontation with the Veterans Minister, Julian Fantonio. You talked about how one of the things that you wanted was training. You wanted to be able to think about how you might re-enter the workforce, how you might be able to bring in income for your family. Would that have been a better use of resources for you? Something directed towards you and getting you back into a place where you could work?
I can only talk for myself, okay?
Yeah.
I've been living 13 years now with someone who suffers importantly from PTSD. I am tired, okay? I am, as we speak, exhausted. I would have needed support and training before money. You know, because money doesn't buy happiness from the beginning. So I can have all the money in the world, but if I don't have a quality of life, I mean, this money doesn't serve to anything. This being said, though, I realize that for many families, the financial issue is very important, and at one point, it will help. For me, I mean, even though the fridge is pretty much empty right now, let me tell you, and I'm very honest when I say so, I still think that I need training in order to help my husband. If I help my husband, I help myself. If I help myself, I am empowered. And if I am empowered, you know what? I can have a home business. I can provide to my family and to my society as well. So people must understand that it's not only a question of money, but also regarding the psychological capabilities we have. Do you know what it's like living with someone who has PTSD 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? At one point, the impacts are real. So it's not for me that I don't want to contribute to our family, to our society as well. That's not the point.
Yeah.
But I need to help to support my husband and myself to protect myself.
So tell me this, so there was this, that encounter with you and the minister is no longer there. It's someone new. You see that the government is trying to correct some of the damage it's done with veterans. Does that change your mind about this government and their treatment of veterans? Does it influence you in any way in terms of your opinion of the Conservatives?
What is important for me is the quality of life of my husband, of myself, and for all veterans and families too. Now, elections are coming. I understand that, logically for me, Mr. O'Toole had a clear mandate, because the situation with the veterans is clearly terrible. I salute the fact that he seems to be listening and he seems to be proactive. Now, what I'm hoping for is that he will present measures that will truly respond to our needs. As for my perception, I've been talking to, let's say, roughly 150 MPs in the past year. Sometimes we talk to the men and women behind the political suits. Sometimes we talk to politicians only. This is politics.
Let me end on this. How is your husband, Claude, doing? How are the two of you doing as you continue to try and get through what has been a very difficult period of your life?
Publicly, that's one thing. In our fortress, this is what I call our home, it's been quite a challenge. People, I guess, will never know how much just my husband was impacted with Mr. Fantino's event. In terms of, do you know that my husband for months was convinced that I was followed when I was in public, that my phone lines were tapped, that somebody was looking through the camera of my laptop? The paranoia was so real. So you know what? 10 months later, he's starting to get better. He's starting to have a new healing process. But it's been a tough one in our home, a tough one. It has impacted our couple a lot, but we'll get through it. We've been through worse, right?
Jennifer Mignot, it's always nice to speak with you, and I always appreciate your very frank honesty. Thank you for it.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Coming up on Power and Politics, polls closed about an hour ago in Israel's election. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been in the fight of his political life